is a growing inventory of nearly 58,000 trees found on city right-of-ways. Trees are removed for health and disease reasons, but for the most part are taken care of so well in our community, and we want to plant more. We'll tell you how you can reforest the red coming up in a few minutes, but we wanted to talk to the Fargo City Forester today because we wanted to talk about the Firewood Inspections that started last week. Would you please welcome to the drive into the mighty 790 board-certified Master Arborist and Fargo City Forester, Scott Liudahl. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. So, Scotty, why do we have our firewood inspected?
Our elm firewood management is our first strategy for the season, really to get a jump start on our management program. And what it allows us to do, the beetle itself is what carries the Dutch elm disease fungus, which is a fungus, from tree to tree. And elm firewood is one of the habitats and the breeding grounds for the beetle. And so it's our chance to identify those firewood piles and logs early on and either eliminate the logs or strip the bark off if a homeowner chooses to do that. And at that point in time, one of those two methods eliminates that habitat for the beetle. So first step, just trying to manage the numbers of beetles that could possibly carry that fungus from an infected tree to a healthy tree.
So we're being joined today by Scott Liudahl, who is the City of Fargo Forester, and he is also a board-certified Master Arborist today. So how's it work? Do you let people know you're coming?
Typically, we'll put out a news release, and then we'll start. Usually this time of the year is perfect time. The snow is pretty much gone for the most part, and we're able to identify piles, side yards, backyards, alleys. And if there is a wood pile that is suspicious, elmwood is fairly easy to identify just by the waves in the growth rings and some of the white flecks of the thicker bark. So it's pretty easy. And once our inspectors find that on the property, we will notify the property owner with their options to get rid of it. Burn it, have us pick it up, debark it. And so there's some choices that they have within a pretty decent time frame to do it. Again, just trying to eliminate that breeding habitat for that beetle.
You'll actually come and pick up this discarded wood for people, won't you?
That is one of the options, just to help expedite the process. It helps them get rid of it. It helps us by getting rid of it.
So have you, as the City of Fargo, had a traditional problem with Dutch elm disease?
We lose roughly 200 elm trees every year, and that includes the bio properties, city right-of-way, private property as well. So yes, early on in the 70s, it was well over 1,000 per year. That's kind of when Dutch elm disease management really got a jump start with some forestry programs like Fargo's and some of the other larger communities around the state. But we still have losses every year. We know we're going to have it. It's just a matter of how aggressive we are able to manage it with firewood identification early on. Prompt sanitation once we detect a positive tree with the fungus. And so we are able to get a hold on it so that we can keep those numbers manageable. We still have roughly 6,000 of these large American elm trees left that line some of the more mature parts of town. A lot of communities don't have that anymore.
Are you going to phase those out, or are you just going to deal with this disease as it comes? Or what are the mitigation efforts are you guys doing?
Dutch elm disease is fairly easy to spot. We can typically pick that up in one season, and we probably do 3 or 4 citywide inspections every season. So trying to manage it is good because it is a little bit more easily manageable compared to emerald ash borer, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. Yeah, as long as we can identify it early on, and the ones that we are taking out, there's still resistant varieties of elm trees that the industry is putting out. NDSU as well. And so we're able to try those. Elm is a great tree. Everybody loves the shape of it. They're pretty aggressive growers, and the resistant varieties, we're not afraid to try those. But we're also mixing up other species along with that so that we don't have this monoculture of elms. We don't have this monoculture of ash. So we are diversifying to make things a little bit more manageable.
I got you. Well, let's talk about ash trees then a little bit. And what is ash borer?
Emerald ash borer originated in Michigan. It's an exotic pest that was first discovered in Michigan. and this was probably back in 20-some years ago, actually. And so it has spread quite a bit to the east and now started creeping to the west. Emerald ash borer basically just kills all ash trees. And so we were in 2010 over 42% ash of our public street trees. Ash trees were planted after elm started to be removed. And so we kind of got ourselves into another pickle there with the ash.
Yeah.
So we're working hard to battle that. And so a little over 42% ash in 2010, and now we're down to under 25%, which is great. Ash trees in North Dakota grow well, vigorous, they're hardy, and they were planted extensively in North Dakota in many communities. And so now we've had time. Emerald ash borer has not been confirmed in North Dakota. It's been Winnipeg, Sioux Falls, yes, in Minnesota, several communities. We're still trapping and we're still monitoring and we're still aggressively trying to diversify when we can with non-ash species just to continue this progress of getting that number down to where we can manage it a little bit better as far as our total population of ash.
Scott Liudahl, the Fargo City Forester, joining us today. So I caught what you said about there. You're trying to diversify a little bit. So what are you replacing ash and elm trees with?
We've got some really good choices. Still the elm-resistant varieties. I like those. Hackberry, maples, some lindens, not too many anymore because that one's starting to creep up there with our numbers. Buckeye, honey locust, a variety of trees that we have access to now that are becoming a little bit more hardy for our area, especially some of the NDSU ones that have been come out in the last 10 years. So we are mixing it up with usually the right tree for the site.
Well, I got you. Is there a way that we can help? Can we plant trees in our yard of different types, non-elm, non-ash? How can the citizenry of Fargo help with this?
Absolutely. It's always good to talk with the nursery. Give us a call, too. We know we're starting to back off. I mentioned lindens. We're starting to back off a little bit on the lindens because they have been overplanted to a certain point now where we need to take a break on those. We're still mixing some in. So knowing looking around your neighborhood and seeing what you have for species, think about something different. Mix it up a little bit so that there is some diversity in those neighborhoods, even if you're on your own property.
I hear you. Have some fun. You can really do some different things with your yard. Well, kind of switching gears, we're being joined by Scott Liudahl, who's the Fargo City Forester. There was some hubbub going on, and I think it's quieted down nicely, probably because of your efforts and a couple other people's as well, about the Lindenwood Road Project that's going on. Roger Maris Drive is going to get a facelift. It's going to go a different route, and it's not going to go along the river anymore because obviously the river floods in there and it creates a problem, and it creates a problem with the road. So that's a cost, et cetera. So they're redoing the road a little bit, and the word came out that they're going to have to, dislocate some 80 trees for the Lindenwood Road Project. And it wasn't until everybody heard the word that those trees were going to be replaced at a 2-to-1 pace by the Forestry Department, et cetera, to make up for that loss. But there were other things that went into the Lindenwood Road Project from your point of view. Can you walk us through, Scotty, what you went through with that?
Yes. The city has a forester, and the Park District has a forester, and we partner with together on a lot of projects and other agencies too for other projects. But from our perspective, from the forester's perspective, obviously we're pro tree. We love trees. And when we work with other individuals and decision makers, that's also our role too. So to try to find a path or a project or a route that is least impactful to the trees that are going to be removed. And in this case, there was one route proposed. Okay, it may have gone through a stand of 5 oaks. Okay, the other option, let's move the road over to an area where we're going to go through 5 ash. Okay, we know that ash is going to have its issues with emerald ash borer, so maybe that's a more appropriate spot and to find for this roadway to be. And so that's kind of the back and forth decision or discussion that went on as this project was coming together. And ultimately, we looked at also the the ecological benefits, the benefits and services that this group of trees is actually putting out. And there's several Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service has a program where you can actually figure out what those trees are saving, such as stormwater mitigation. There's a dollar amount that goes with that. And so that was all taken into consideration as well. Yes, we're going to lose benefits and services of these 82 trees, but the mitigation side of it with the replacements, at some point in time, it's going to take a while, many years, but at some point in time, we're going to hit that same number and go above it because of the numbers that have been planted, replaced.
So as a city forester, are you pretty happy with how the Lindenwood Road Project is finalized now?
Well, like I say, again, I'm definitely pro-tree, but I realize that, there's other decision makers and programs and projects that are constantly going on, and it's our role, to try to get involved in the process and make it as least impactful as we can. And so ultimately, yes, I'm okay with how that all came together just because of the involvement with the foresters and the other administrators of the project.
So switching gears again, this fall, there's something going on that has been going on for a while. You call it Reforest the Red, and we can all get involved with this. What is Reforest the Red, Scott?
It's a great time. Usually, we started doing it in September the last few years just because of the timing on it. But it's Wednesday, September 8th. Reforest the Red is, we probably plant roughly 5,000 new seedlings in areas that are mostly buyout properties and park properties. And the attempt with Reforest the Red is to start to reclaim some of these areas that were once wooded corridors that at some point in time became, backyards. But now, as we start to march, and this year we're going to be at Lindenwood, just actually north of the footbridge going into Moorhead. And it's a great activity. Usually we get about 500 to 700 on a normal year. Normal year, 2020 was way weird. But in a normal year, we'll get some volunteers that come out, and we have partners, like I mentioned before, and the registration for this event goes to Riverkeepers. They're one of our partners. The Park District, Cass County Soil Conservation Service, and Dakota Audubon are all some of our partners. It's just a great event. Wednesday, September 8th, it goes from noon to 7, and I just encourage folks to stay tuned. There'll be some more information that comes out later.
Get out and volunteer and go plant some trees. It sounds like a fun day and a good time to do that.
It is.
423 at the Mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO. Scott Liudahl is the Fargo City Forester and a board-certified Master Arborist joining us today. Scott, thanks so very, very much. I envy what you get to do every day.
It's a lot of fun, and I get to chat about it quite a bit, like with you, Dan. So I appreciate the invite.
It's always our pleasure. We'll talk again, Scott. Okay.
All right. Take care. Thanks.
Take care. Scott Liudahl, Fargo City Forester, joining us today on the